Welcome back, everyone. It's me, Matt. Thanks for joining me. We're looking at a Bradley currently right now, but that's not what today's topic is. It's just unfortunate that there's actually no footage of the new vehicle we're talking about today, which is one of the most important American armored vehicle programs in decades, the XM30 Mechanized Infantry Combat Vehicle, the replacement program for the beautiful M2 Bradley, which I still think has a lot of kick left in it. You know, a lot of you have seen that footage of that beautiful Bradley punching out that T90, which to this day I still think is an incredible kind of testament to the ability of this IFV. And I know the Bradley has had a lot of history and hate in its time too, but I know many users of Bradley, and it's just an incredible platform, and still to this day I think has lots of capability. But more specifically, we're looking at the American Rheinmetall Lynx side of the story, while also covering the wider XM30 program and where it's actually heading. And I'll say this again right away, Bradley is amazing, it's served for decades, and it's been upgraded repeatedly, and has proven that a proper infantry fighting vehicle is still absolutely relevant on the battlefield, even though many of you are saying it's drone food, because that's literally all anyone ever says on my channel now when I talk about tracked, or any kind of vehicle, is that drones just win wars. But there comes to a point where even a great vehicle does run out of room, and the Bradley entered service in 1981, and the Army has acknowledged that reaching this physical and technological limit of what can be added in terms of electronics, armour and sensors, and also defensive systems for drones, has really hit that point. This is why the XM30 really does matter, and why I'm kind of getting more and more excited the more news I see about it. The system is very juicy. It's more getting the US Army into the next generation of track fighting vehicles with more power, more protection, more sensors, more digital architecture, and there's so much potential here. The vehicle was designed from the start for a battlefield filled with drones, anti-tank missiles, electronic warfare, and loitering munitions. So the near-peer threats are really what's being pushed on this vehicle nowadays. We're not looking at a counterinsurgency setup where we're going against, you know, troops with just some rifles and RPGs. We're really going upon the basis of all-round 360-degree engagements. And honestly, I think good things are going to come to those who wait. Sometimes I think in these programs people get impatient, and I completely understand that, because the history of replacing the Bradley has been long. I would say pretty complicated, and for me it's sometimes frustrating, particularly when I'm trying to research this vehicle. For example, the Future Combat Systems program was cancelled, the Ground Combat Vehicle program was cancelled, then the optionally manned fighting vehicle program arrived, evolved, changed, and eventually became the XM30. But in this case, the amount of time and effort going into the vehicle is not necessarily, in my opinion, a bad sign. It shows that the US military and the US Army knows a lot about decisions when it comes to this kind of thing, and they're not rushing into it. You don't replace something like the Bradley with a rushed program, or platform for that matter. You replace it with something that can actually carry an armoured brigade combat team through the next few decades of war, if not even longer. The program has already involved major companies with serious experience. In 2021, 5 teams received concept design contracts: Point Blank Enterprises, Oshkosh Defense, BAE Systems, General Dynamics Land Systems, and American Rheinmetall Vehicles. Then, in 2023, the Army narrowed the competition to 2 General Dynamics Land Systems and American Rheinmetall Vehicles, with contracts worth about $1.6 billion for detailed design, prototype build, and testing phases. That tells me, and of course you as the viewer, that America is really taking this seriously. That's a large investment with some pretty prominent defense contractors. They're not garage projects, folks. These are very experienced defense companies, and they've been asked to produce something genuinely transformational. American Rheinmetall brings the Lynx family concept into the American competition, while General Dynamics brings its own tracked fighting vehicle experience. Either way, the Army is clearly trying to avoid simply building a Bradley 2.0. And I'm glad, and this is where things are starting to change. I would rather see major attention and money put into a next-generation Bradley replacement than to more vehicles like the Booker, which I did the video on where it unfortunately got cancelled. This is not to say every support vehicle is useless, but the infantry fighting vehicle is central to armoured warfare, particularly with the level of troops and capability of troops available to the US Army. If you're modernizing the US Army for a peer fight, the vehicle that carries, protects, supports, and fights alongside mechanized infantry has to be a priority. The XM30 is meant to be optionally manned, which means it can be designed with the ability to operate with or without a crew and soldiers inside, depending on the commander's decision. It is also intended to work with robotic and semi-autonomous systems, which is one of the biggest clues about where the army thinks ground combat is going. They want to automate kind of drones alongside vehicles that can support if necessary, which I think many of you have kind of prompted before in the past on my channel when I've talked about vehicles of these kinds. The Army has also outlined some of the major intended features: a 2-soldier crew, room for 6 dismounts, a 50mm cannon, remote turret, anti-tank guided missiles, modern sensors, fire control systems, hybrid electric power potentially, active protection system, kitted up armor systems, and signature management. This is all huge jumps from the Bradley in concept, but Bradley does have some of these features, and they have upgraded certain packages to make that happen, but certainly with where Bradley is today, it's not keeping up with things like a 50mm cannon, which is a particularly interesting choice. Modern infantry fighting vehicles are getting heavier, better protected, and harder to kill with older auto cannons. A larger cannon gives the XM30 more reach, more punch, and potentially more flexibility against enemy IFVs, light armor, drones, defensive positions, and troops in cover. Now, when you add anti-tank guided missiles, and suddenly this is an infantry carrier that is actually turning into a tank destroyer as well, and it really is adding a lot of battlefield capability that Bradley already had, but is expanding upon it. The real magic, though, may be a little less visible. The XM30 is being designed using digital engineering and modular open systems architecture. Now, that sounds pretty boring for the most part, but it actually really does matter overall for this kind of system. A modular open architecture means the vehicle should be easier to upgrade, particularly over long time periods, with new systems like software, electronic warfare systems, defensive systems, and communications, rather than being locked into one fixed configuration for a long time. That's exactly where Bradley unfortunately has struggled. Not because the Bradley was bad, but it's because it's from another era. You can't just bolt so much onto an older hull before weight, power, cooling, space, and cost start fighting against you. We saw that in the Beautiful Warrior, trying to upgrade with the, caseless telescopic ammunition with the new turret. It just didn't work. But where is this program today? And honestly, sometimes I don't even know myself. As I'm trying to do research on this thing, it can get quite complicated. The OMFV was redesigned XM30 in June 2023 after the initial digital design phase. The Army's acquisition plan includes design, prototype testing, and production phases. The CRS update notes that the Army expected low-rate initial production in the fiscal year of 2028 and a full-rate production decision around the fiscal year of 2030. It's also reported that General Dynamics and American Rheinmetall completed preliminary design review in August 2024, with prototype work following critical design review. There's also been some schedule complexity, and I mean that in every sense of the word. This thing is complicated. The CRS report says the Milestone B decision was delayed in April 2025, but later reporting cited in the update said that American Rheinmetall and General Dynamics were approved in June 2025 to continue into engineering and manufacturing development, where both companies would build physical prototypes for evaluation. And more recent reporting suggests the testing path is becoming more tangible. In 2026, soldiers from the 1st Cavalry Division were reported to be set to receive the XM30 vehicles for hands-on use, with 2 platoons expected to work with the XM30 for further training and activity around the National Training Center in 2027. Now that's pretty important because the vehicle cannot just look good in a brochure, and I am sometimes susceptible to that myself, looking at something saying, oh, it looks incredible. It needs soldier feedback. It needs maintainers crawling all over it. I'm a tank mechanic myself by trade. It needs the crews complaining about what is awkward, what's too cramped, what breaks, what works, and what needs changing. And that's where this vehicle has to become real, because at the moment, honestly, everything is basically on paper. Now, I do think that this is going to be a very good vehicle. I love the ambition, I like the focus on future growth, and I like the fact that the Army seems to understand that protection sensors, power generation, robotics, etc., and the upgrade capacity are just as important as how thick the armor is or the bigger the gun caliber. But I'm not fully sold on the 2-man crew capability. I understand why they want it. Fewer crew means less internal volume taken up by crew stations and potentially lowering manpower requirements, and of course more automation. But there's a difference between reducing workload and pretending that workload just disappears. A modern IFV crew is not just driving and shooting anymore. They're managing sensors, radios, sites, battlefield networks, drone feeds, electronic warfare threats, active protection systems, dismount your coordination of infantry getting out of your vehicle or on board your information that they're sending you, navigation, target handoff, even now potentially robotic vehicles operating nearby that you're meant to be coordinating. That's a lot for two people, no matter how advanced the automation becomes. Personally, and in my opinion, I think modern IFVs need a specific third crew member that is not a driver, a loader, a gunner, or a commander. This is basically a third operator that could manage the administration, right? A tethered drone, so to speak, launching small reconnaissance drones or coordinating counter-UAS systems on the vehicle, monitoring the air picture, controlling electronic warfare tools that helps link the vehicle with dismounted infantry as well. That is a lot of work that could be integrated to one individual in the back of the vehicle that is purely the administrative side of the platform. And that's how you answer the people who say IFVs are useless because of drones. In my opinion, they're absolutely not useless. They're just not being given the tools and the resources to specifically focus on these problems. You don't just make an IFV irrelevant because one platform arrives. It's just, it's part of the fight. Drones are part of the fight. They're not completely the fight. And the war in Ukraine has made it obvious that armoured vehicles are extremely vulnerable to anti-tank missiles and unmanned aerial systems, and Congress has actually specifically raised the question of the XM30 active protection plans and addressing the full range of threats now emerging from Ukraine. They're basically challenging the defence contractors and saying, hold on a second, we want you to give us some really good tangible evidence that you're going to be able to deal with this threat. So if drones are the problem, then the next IFV should not just hide from drones. It needs to detect them, jam them, shoot them, launch its own, help the infantry operate under that drone threat. A dedicated third crew member, in my opinion, could be very useful, and in the difference between a vehicle that is overloaded with technology and a vehicle that actually uses technology that properly used in certain scenarios in combat will help add value. That's my main concern, I would say, with the XM30. It's not the concept, not the firepower, not the companies involved. There's so much, brain energy going into and money going into this design. Because automation is excellent until it fails. And when it fails hard. Networks are excellent until they're jammed. Sensors are, they're great until a crew is saturated with information. And in close combat, especially in urban areas or what we're now even seeing with forests and trenches or broken terrain, human decision-making still matters. Being able to observe your vehicle from the outside, with your eye, not just through cameras, is pretty important. Intuition, so to speak. And as a crew commander myself in the past on Warrior, I would be pretty terrified putting all my reliance upon cameras and sensors within a vehicle instead of my awareness and recognition of just being outside the cupola. And I know many people will disagree with me there, but that's just kind of my opinion on it. So my overall verdict is cautiously optimistic. I think the XM30, including the American Rheinmetall Lynx path, has the potential to be a very strong next-generation fighting vehicle. I like that serious companies are competing and that the US military is not rushing, and they're putting real thought into survivability and modularity and certainly the future systems that they want to upgrade if necessary. I think focusing on this kind of core armoured capability makes a lot more sense than chasing vehicles that do not solve the Army's biggest mechanized warfare problems. But I would still like to see the crew concept challenged. As I said, 2 crew members may look efficient on paper, but the modern battlefield is not getting simpler, and the number of crew commanders that I know who are operating Bradley or vehicles around the world right now, even with Warrior, CV90, things are getting busier, faster, more chaotic, more electronic, drone-heavy, and mentally demanding. They need more than just a crew driver or loader or commander. They need a third crew member that focuses on drones, counter-drones, sensors, etc. And I really do think that is something that is a little bit nervous for me in terms of future IFV design. But good things come to those who wait. Eventually, the waiting has to produce something real, and I think in the next couple of years we're going to see an XM30 or something of replacement to Bradley and its prototype coming to the forefront for the US Army, and I can't wait to see it. Hopefully in the near future I'll be able to go take a look at one. If any of you are watching as a defense contractor right now, can I come play with it? I'm just kidding. Seriously, that would be super cool to see if I could get onto the prototype of the future to replace the beautiful Bradley and its battlefield legacy and combine it with that modern protection, seeing if there is opportunity to use things like hybrid power, you know, more intelligent active protection, drone integration. These are all big things that I have really been exposed to on a very minute scale, but it'd be cool to see what the next American super IFV will be. Folks, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what your thoughts are on this modernized future program coming out for the US military and replacement of the Bradley and their new IFVs. It'd be interesting to see your own thoughts. If there's anything I got wrong here, I apologize. As I said, it's a very complicated and sometimes confusing topic to talk about the XM30, and I'm hoping that more clarification will come in the next couple of years to see what's going. But at the end of the day, it's all good news. You know, we are seeing good development for the infantry and their, you know, chariot into battle, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen. Thanks again, folks, for joining me. All the best. Bye-bye.